post or entry, and just one question, one response, another entry that responds to the initial one. The take on this topic is quite negative or skeptic, because it says Brazil is too traditional to be able to advance human rights in the world scenario. But I think that in events like this one, you can see that Brazil, both because of people working in that direction and also because the research institutions have resources and interest in funding these kind of events, that Brazil can contribute to develop, in this case, a decolonial perspective on human rights or to the decolonization of human rights. I invite you to check this website when you can, because it doesn't have only this section, but a number of sections on human rights, and it tries to enact a different kind of debate between people in Europe and people in America Latina, Latin America, in Asia, in Africa, everywhere in the world. I would like to make a distinction between decolonial thinking and decolonizing knowledge. Decolonial thinking for me is a stream of thinking that has emerged over the last 2 decades, probably, or even before, in Latin America, with certain people who work on this and certain concepts involved, mainly modernity, coloniality. This is, on the one hand, this school of thinking. On the other, the idea of decolonizing culture or decolonizing knowledge in general, which is a project and an activity that can be made not only by decolonial thinking, but also for a lot of type of epistemologies or school of thinking appearing from the South and also inside the Western horizon. So I will read now my paper. I would like to present 4 different hermeneutical or epistemological strategies that can contribute to the task of decolonizing human rights. Walter Mignolo's Geopolitics of Knowledge, Boaventura de Sousa Santos' Epistemologies of the South, William Twining General Jurisprudence, and my own work on rethinking the history of human rights. First, the geopolitics of knowledge and human rights. Situated far away from subjectivism and other idealist theories of knowledge, and drawing from, but at the same time making more complex Marxist materialism, Mignolo's Geopolitics of Knowledge is an epistemology that links theory to the modern colonial world. The history of modern imperialism and global capitalism on the one hand, and modern thinking on the other, would have coexisted and constituted each other. The modern colonization of the world, a process that started with the conquest of America, continued with the colonization of Africa and Asia, and still advances today with globalization and neo-colonialism, has been accompanied or sustained by the cultural colonization of non-European civilizations rationalities, and sensibilities. Cultural colonialism created a distinction between the standpoint of those who think from Europe or the West and those who think from the outside, the margins or the colonial difference. One of the main consequences of the process of colonization of knowledge is the adoption of the idea according to which only knowledge emerging from Europe is valid or can make a claim to truth or to universality. This assumption excludes the possibility of valid knowledge being produced outside Europe. The colonizing knowledge consists in this context on challenging the exclusive and universalist character of Western thinking and on defending the existence and the validity of non-Western knowledges. It is in this sense that Mignolo invites us to think beyond the Greeks and Eurocentrism. These insights can have a number of consequences for the theory of human rights. There is a need for being aware of the Eurocentric characteristics and limitations of the conventional and dominant theory of human rights. Being born out of European events and schools of thinking, the standard theory ignores or rejects the possibility of non-European or third world approaches. So we also need to retrieve or to construct the anti-colonial tradition of human rights by rescuing from the archives events and ideas that have been elaborated in connection to the doctrine of rights in the context of the 500 years of the history of colonialism. In this way, Mignolo's call for a radical reconceptualization of the human rights paradigm could be interpreted or enacted through the elaboration of a theory and a history of human rights that goes beyond the canons of European philosophy and that has in mind the critique of Eurocentrism as orientation and the history of colonialism as horizon of understanding. Second, the epistemologies of the South. Santos characterizes modern Western thinking as an abyssal thinking. The metaphor of the abyss is used by Santos to convey the thesis that Western thinking organizes the production of knowledge and validation along the lines of a precipice, a veritable sheer drop like that encountered when at the top of the mountain, or that can be found in the depths of the sea. A precipice that separates theories produced in the north from those elaborated in the south. Abyssal thinking is a technology of knowledge that specializes in making distinctions and in radicalizing them. It creates two markedly different camps or species of knowledge. To the north of the line, those to be taken as truthful and universal. And to the south, the colonial zone or the third world, the notions that are classified as opinions or as simply false, or are limited by their local origins, or are not worthy of consideration, or cannot participate in the production of knowledge, or are beyond recognition, or do not exist as such. distinction portrays a hierarchy that locates in the superior levels those knowledges coming from the metropolitan centers of empire, which are assumed as universal and as a consequence hold the monopoly of truth. For Santos, colonization also displayed its capacity for devastation by plundering non-Western knowledges and by causing an epistemicide. The destruction of entire cultures, languages, religions, and knowledges, and the subsequent waste of centuries of millennia of experience and creativity of too many civilizations. Western theory has to be deprived of these abyssal characteristics. Among them, its claim to universality and the monopoly of truth. At the same time, a gigantic decentric effort is to be performed. This can be actualized as a self-decentering project by those already standing in the northern side of the line, which can be the case of Santos himself, or as a critique performed from outside the West. In this scenario, a second interlocutor is to be acknowledged or re-established. Non-Western knowledges are to be validated as carriers of truth, and the Southern voices' active role as agents or subjects of knowledge is to be recognized. They are seen as relevant, comprehensible, and not merely local, and therefore as worthy of analysis and dialectical engagement. This hermeneutical strategy called for jumping or crossing the abyss and for creating bridges through dialogue. Western knowledge reproduces itself and persists through a sollicits rationale or a monologue enacted by Western subjects, a paradoxical dialogue in which only one speaker participates, i.e., the Western subject based in Europe or North America, inasmuch as they are the centers of the modern worldwide empire and the production of knowledge. By contrast, at the core of Santos' epistemologies of the South lays a dialogical dynamics. The epistemologies of the South are built on the inclusive atmosphere of the epistemological diversity of the world and its infinite experiences, in which a plurality of heterogeneous knowledges inhabit or converge. This is a dialogue between different cultures that are set on an equal standing, an intercultural dialogue in which knowledge is understood as inter-knowledge. Non-Western or indigenous understandings of the world have a place and a voice in this forum on an equal standing with Western thought. However, this is not about dismissing or breaking with Western thinking, as Western knowledge is a welcome participant in this wider dialogue only after being stripped of its abyssal ballast. The epistemologies of the South can have far-reaching consequences for human rights by the replacement of the Western monoculture of knowledge by the more rich and more fertile ecologies of knowledge, which are already contributing to create not only an epistemic revolution, but also a new research program on societies and the global order. How is the time? case, I will just try to make a summary. The third part is about the Ugandan-born British scholar William Twining, who has been engaged for a long time in the question of thinking law in connection to globalization. And he developed something called general jurisprudence, a way of thinking law that is up to the challenge of globalization. According to general jurisprudence, there is a need for changing the object of the research, of legal research, from the field or the scenario of the national legal order to the global legal order. But most importantly, Twining says also that there is a need for moving from a subject that is just one subject that reclaims universality while at the same time being ethnocentrically centered, and to move to a global subject. I think this is an important contribution to the way we think global dialogue, because it goes beyond the Kantian conception of cosmopolitanism, in which the object of research changes, but the subject continues to be the same. Yes? The subject that thinks the globe from a particular point of view, that is the view of Europe. But in Twining's, there is a need for a dialogue between Europe and the rest of the world. And he himself has enacted this dialogue with four scholars from Africa and Asia, Abdullahi Al-Naim, Upendra Bakshi, Francis Tate, and Josh Guy. And through this engagement, he looks for opening up the parochial Western-wide tradition to other inputs, to other views coming from the South. And the last part is about some ideas I have been working on the history of human rights. One is that we need to challenge or to discuss the way we think of the crisis of modernity. A lot of scholars working on human rights theory adopt the idea that we live in a post-Holocaust human rights culture, an idea in which, following Adorno, Horkheimer, and a number of European philosophers, modernity would have emerged in the European Renaissance, and only in the Second World War, the capacity for destruction and the capacity for emancipation that reside inside modernity would have come to a clash, to an explosion in the Holocaust, and only then modernity would have end up in a crisis. But if we consider the extent to which genocide was perpetrated in the colonial world since the conquest of America, we can say that the crisis of modernity doesn't only occur in the middle of the 20th century, but already started in the 16th century, or even in the late 15th century, 16th century, with the conquest of America and colonial genocide. From that perspective, we can set up or imagine a post-conquest history of human rights, and not only a post-Holocaust history of human rights. A history of human rights that is takes as a founding event colonial genocide and the conquest of America, and that is reconstructed through an analysis or an interpretation of the moments in which the theory of natural law, the rights of man, and human rights has been used to oppose colonialism. And that we can see in the works of Bartolomé Las Casas, in the works of Antonio de Vieira, who is the Brazilian Bartolomé Las Casas, who has been also forgotten and be a good theme for research here in Brazil. We can think of the free African slaves who in the 18th century, before the French Revolution, wrote treatises defending the idea of the abolition of slavery on the basis of a certain interpretation of natural law. We can think of the whole process of independence in the Americas since the U.S. Revolution of Independence, the Haitian Revolution, and all the movements for independence in Central and South America. And lately, the contribution of decolonization, political decolonization in the middle of the 20th century to change and to reshape the international apparatus of human rights. Thank you very much.